Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Star Wars Black 6-inch stripy clone trooper, which looks actually pretty good. I'm quite a fan of the clone trooper designs. Not for the figure, I mean for the figures too, but just in general I really like the clone trooper designs. I started out not liking them as much as the stormtroopers, but I've grown to like the clone troopers' more sleek look. So I'm a big fan of this look, and I think he looks really good with the color added to him. And that's really all this figure is. It's basically the original Clone Trooper figure that we've already gotten with some stripes. That's why I call him the Stripy Clone Trooper. But they didn't do a bad job, so that's pretty good. Funny thing is, the same problems that were there for the original are still there, but the new stuff, which is the striping, actually pretty good. So this figure, well, before we get into that, he stands, just in case you're not familiar with the figures, just shy of 6.5 inches. He comes with a rifle, which has a little bit of paint on it, and it's molded in a fairly matte plastic, so that's pretty nice. I appreciate that. And this one, same situation, only it's a pistol. No battle damage or anything, but that's okay. He has one trigger finger hand. This one is not, so you're not going to have him holding both guns ever, not in a functional sense. But he can definitely hold the rifle in this hand like this. And I'll post some photos at the end of the video so you can see that. Okay, so what I was going to say is he's molded in a fairly, not glossy, but it's got a little bit of a shine to it in the plastic, which is fine because it suits the armor. And then the paint for the stripe is kind of a matte finish, which actually looks pretty good. It gives it a nice effect. I'm pretty happy with that. The visor, I wish the visor had a little bit more shine to it actually, but it's not horrible. And then the mouth and everything's painted fairly well. I can't complain too much. A little bit of red back there, that looks good. The black lines are pretty good. Green lines are pretty good. The braille on his chest is pretty good. Most of it's pretty good. Here's the problem, which I said was existent before and still is. The elbow pads and the knee pads where they're painted white. Well, that I think is supposed to be gray, so that's okay. But the white part is not very well done. It's really glossy and also translucent, so you can see gray or black plastic peeking through. It just doesn't match and it doesn't look that great. It's something you can live with for sure, but it's not, there's really no need for it. It should have been molded in white like the rest of the armor. The gray painting on it looks okay. The black painting on the white parts is okay, not great, but it'll do. And then the belt is molded, actually it's a little bit of an off-white. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but it's probably not something you'll even notice most likely, but it is slightly different white than the rest. Let's talk about articulation. The head is on that joint right there, so that's okay. Hinge and ball pegs, so you get pretty good range of motion. Up and down, side to side. It's got a really low helmet, which is great for the sculpt. Limits the articulation a little bit, but not enough that I'm going to complain. I'm pretty happy with that. Now this part, shoulder pad, basically cancels out all of the shoulder articulation. You'll get your bicep swivel, and you'll get this, but that's it. The shoulder pad is really, really in the way. Good for sculpt, really good for sculpt, bad for the articulation. Double jointed elbows, which gives you pretty good range of motion. Not great, it's just a little bit better than 90, but it's not horrible. You have a wrist swivel and a wrist hinge, so that'll be handy for holding the gun, no pun intended. And for this wrist, we have the hinge going the other way, so that'll also be handy. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but it's there, so it's okay. We have a diaphragm joint, which gives us pretty decent range of motion. It's not wonderful, but it's pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy with it, and it doesn't look too bad, so that is okay. Can this belt come off? I don't know. I'm not seeing a seam anywhere where it's meant to come apart, so I think the belt is meant to stay on. So if you're curious, it looks like it's going to be staying on. For the hips, we have a ball hinge style hip where it's a hinge really and a peg. So there's the peg forward and back. It's not great, but it's not bad. And then we have the hinge from side to side. That's probably all you're going to need for a stormtrooper or clone trooper anyway. We have a thigh swivel under the armor, so that works really well. Double jointed knee works really well. Ankle hinge goes really nicely forward, not very far back at all, but we do have an ankle rocker, so that's pretty good. So, you know, as far as a trooper goes, he's probably got decent articulation. The only thing that's really a bummer is the shoulder pads. The rest of it's pretty darn good. I'm gonna say I recommend it if you like troopers and Star Wars stuff in general. So we're gonna end the video. I'll post some photos once I'm done here, but we're gonna have him aiming off camera because they never hit what they're aiming at anyway. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. I do recommend the figure. I think you should pick it up, and I think you should subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.